again, not that there's an absolute standard definition, but when you look at the majority of the market, they are these companies that have basically created new infrastructure for participants who want to focus on food delivery opportunities without the time and expense of building their own needed infrastructure. And the infrastructure I'm talking about in this case is gas and electrical to have kitchen equipment, the hood that sucks out all the smoke that's required, the fire systems, being able to wash the food, like all these things you need to legally operate a safe restaurant is how I'd put that. And the idea is that all these stalls, ultra small kitchens from the ones I've been in that are really just focused on the growing delivery marketplace, which it is. I knew that from when I first did all my research, but it really is fundamentally an infrastructure layer. And these differing companies, they have different services, but when you break it down, like how do they make money? Yeah, so they buy or lease space, they build out kitchens, and they charge a very large difference between their rent or ownership costs and what that end user is paying. And now there are other ways that they're making money too, charging per transaction fees for support and stuff like that. But ultimately, when you think of the quote unquote ghost kitchen, these companies that are dedicated to the infrastructure are in these more industrial areas typically, and it's real estate arbitrage game. And it makes sense to me, right? Like you don't need a whole restaurant to do something like that. And as the restaurateur, you can go spin one of these things up very quickly. But when you actually look at the full cost of what you have to pay per square foot, you just have to understand that you're paying an extremely high variable cost, where if you have a successful business, like it's great that you could scale up really quickly, but it's not a part of your business unless the prices come down precipitously. That would make sense on a long-term P&L. Short-term, I totally get, and I've had a million people trying to get me to spin my concept up within ghost kitchens, but you actually can't. I'll save Scratch Kitchen for last because of the differentiators. Now, there's this other caliber of what would be referred to as a ghost kitchen, and that's where any X, Y, or Z restaurant operators is just using their underutilized space in the back of the kitchen that they already own or lease. And they're saying, okay, we can spin up another brand back here that'll be considered a ghost kitchen brand, kind of common lexicon these days. And then you've got these virtual brands, right? And those are these brands that don't have a brick and mortar presence. They're not the restaurant that you think of. For all the listeners probably know about like Mr. Beast Burger, right? Like, yeah, there's no like physical presence for that. And that's just part of the new world as these different types of infrastructure pop up. Again, a couple different forms of that infrastructure. And then there are a couple other different types of companies. Some people would call it restaurant as a service, but I kind of think that is some Silicon Valley, like hand wavy bullshit. Oh, I don't know. Can I curse on the podcast
yes,
or not?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, please. More the better.
So Silicon Valley hand wavy bullshit. I mean, I hope to get quoted for that. And it's because, dude, it's a virtual franchise company. There are these companies, they're saying, oh, we'll run your brand that you've created, right? We'll run it. Whether we're a tried and true food operator or not, it's a whole different story. But they'll glom a bunch of those together. They build their own kitchen. They're not going to go start this in a ghost kitchen, obviously, because of the high variable costs that go into that. That's a class of business that's out there running. That includes folks like Reef Technologies as kind of a hybridized company. I mean, they're selling food out of trailers, ghost trailers, I suppose. I mean, people are going and picking it up. They're using underutilized parking lots to make food. Now, I mean,
I
I'm
don't
just
know if
going to
anyone
make
wants to know that's where their food came from, though.
Here's what customers need to know and why they'll ultimately like customers who care about quality will choose Scratch Kitchen. No offense to all the smart people at Reef, by the way, but I don't ever want to buy food from a place that doesn't have running potable water and a sewer line. Straight up. It's really hard to imagine making sure all the food and the humans that make the food are going to be as clean as you really want them to be. And that's the stuff that really bothers me. And it doesn't bother everyone, right? I'm an extremist in that sense, but it's something to be highly cognizant of because like, and in a Travis Kalanick's Cloud Kitchens, right? They've got plenty of utilities, right? And you know that as long as that operator behaves himself, it just seems like a much cleaner environment. But having someone make food where they don't necessarily have like a designated close and clean toilet seriously bothers me after making food for such long periods of time and doing a number of things far above regulatory minimums. Okay, so those I'm sorry if I don't want that to come off the wrong way, but this is part of like the new and evolving industry